Greetings, loyalists and heretics. Welcome to Iron and Ceramite, where we once again enter the warp without an astropath.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Iron and Ceramite podcast. My name is John, and as always, I'm joined by Dave.
Hello.
Glenn.
Right.
Shane.
Hello.
And Tommy. And as we have been doing in recent weeks, we're sticking to themes of armies that some of us have been playing. Obviously, Glenn, Dave, Shane have all had a go. And now we're moving on to Tom, who's going to take us through the history, the lore, and some interesting stuff about the Blood Angels. So without further ado, I'll hand over to you, Tom.
Absolutely. Cheers, mate. Well, I've written some decent little lists down on my iPad, so I'm going to be reading it mostly off of that. I'm just going to touch on basically how the Blood Angels were, I suppose, created and their early days and their beginnings. But if any of you guys want to jump in with any questions, feel free. And then I'll just tell you that I've got no idea what you're talking about. No, honestly, if anyone knows anything, obviously I'm definitely no expert on any of this. So if anyone wants to correct me or come in with anything that they know to add a little bit more depth to this measly little few paragraphs I've got written down, then feel free. But yeah. So let me begin. Obviously, they are named the Blood Angels. So the Blood Angels were created from the genetic material of their Primarch Sanguinius, who, when himself and his brother Primarchs were cast into the warp, landed on the desert moon of Baal Secundus. So that was one of the two moons that's surrounding Baal, the planet itself. The other moon being Baal Primus, because they're very original over in that sort of part of the galaxy. So these worlds were obviously later where the Blood Angels would end up recruiting from, eventually, pretty much in their entirety for their new legionaries. So originally the 9th Legion, who during the Unification Wars were used sparingly as the Emperor's Inferno, they were few in numbers and often served as vanguards and used in small audacious raids where murderous close combat was needed. In the very early days, their numbers were recruited from the lost and the dispossessed across Terra. So basically just the waifs and strays from across all different continents. Despite the mutation being present in some of the new recruits, they were still genetically sculpted into tall, fair and elegant specimens. Obviously, the gene seed of Sanguinius would have been implanted, I'm assuming back then, changing them into or making them look similar in ways to himself. It was in this era that they gained the title the Eaters of the Dead, due to them consuming the corpses of their enemies after battle. We'd later come to know that as the Red Thirst. I'm assuming that is when it all started. As the Great Crusade began, the Blood Angels were often deployed to hellish backwater war zones, losing many of their warriors in these horrific battles, but always coming back from defeat and swelling their numbers, often with the dregs left on the worlds that they had fought and conquered in the name of the Emperor. They were often in the company of the less favoured legions by the Lords of Terror, such as the Warhounds, so they wasn't held in that high of a regard back then in these days. The 9th accepted their part in the crusade with grim pride, even though they were shunned by much of the wider Imperium. As they were separated across the stars, they then became rumours that they were starting cults named charnel cults, where pretty much they were just becoming bloodthirsty monsters, really, going out for battle, seeing who they could eat, who they could destroy in the most bloodthirsty ways, and starting little cults of their own, which got quite a few of them actually heavily censored back then for how bloodthirsty they were becoming by the Lords of Terror and the Emperor. Meanwhile, while all this is happening, Sanguinius has landed on Baal Secundus, was found by humans, luckily, rather than the ghastly mutants that also inhabited the moons and the planet, because it was basically an irradiated wasteland. And he quickly matured and used his superhuman powers of the Primarchs to unite the humans against the mutants and quickly became their leader. And by the time the Emperor did arrive, he was pretty much almost being worshipped as a god. When the Emperor found Baal and Sanguinius, his winged son knelt in fealty to his father, one of the few Primarchs said to have actually done so on first meeting the Emperor himself. He was the 10th Primarch to be found by the Emperor. He took control.
Random question diving in, and this is related to the wings. I'm sure I don't know if there's an answer to this. When did he grow the wings, and why weren't people sketchy about it?
So I think the most common answer is that he actually gained them from the warp when he was being sent through the warp, when all the Primarchs were dispersed originally to all their different planets that they ended up on. And I think it's almost like the Chaos Gods knew that the Emperor was against religion and this and that, so they gave or tried to give one of his sons wings, so he looked like an angel, almost taking the mick out of him. And I think that's the most widely held belief, unless any of you guys have heard anything different. So I'm assuming there's probably another few rumors floating around.
Do you know, like, did it ever come up anywhere in the lore, a conversation between him and the Emperor saying, "Got to lose the wings, mate," or did he just accept it?
I think it was one of them things that they just accepted. There's so many contradictions in Warhammer in 40k in the future, but I think that the moment he clips Sanguinius's wings would be the moment it pretty much turns him to chaos. So yeah, does anyone else have any theories on why Sanguinius would be winged, or do you reckon it's pretty much probably down to the Chaos Gods playing a sick joke as he come through the wall?
I don't know, because some of them, like the Emperor, I don't know, the Emperor built flaws in to some of them, didn't he? Like, as I said, the Calyx Helix with the Space Wolves and the Salamanders, and their need to protect humanity, Glenn. Who were there were a couple. There was another one as well that was created separately. Maybe it's one of the it was the Alpha Legion with the twins. So they were created separate. So it may have been by design. I just wasn't sure. Like, as I said, I've never looked into why Sanguinius had wings, so I was just curious.
Yeah, it could very well have been. I mean, it's not like the wings don't help him in battle, is it? Yeah.
It's almost like there's a little bit of self-fulfilling prophecy with a lot of the issues with the Primarchs versus like where they end up taking the people from. Like Sanguinius, big old mutant. They were taking the genetic strain and adding it to, as you put it, the waifs and strays, the already mutated people. So that's who they were taking for the Blood Angels. So, he was mutant. There's a little bit of
This isn't going to end well.
You can you can't use psychic powers.
There's a little bit of playing around with the Games Workshop writers. It's like, are they doing it because he was a mutant, or is it just so that they were making Blood Angels out of mutants, and then it turns out they're Primarch? Oh, he had wings. He was a bit weird.
Yeah. Yeah, it could have been. I think it's one of them things that's like Games Workshop do so well. It's sort of left open a little bit and never fully, just so that everyone can have their little say on it. But yeah, it's an interesting point. Maybe I should have done some research for this. Yeah, swiftly moving on. Anyway, Sanguinius, he took command of the then dark and brutal 9th Legion. His first action was to gather his troops alongside his famed brother Horus and best friend at the time, and he knelt before them, offering his total loyalty and service. To the 9th Legion, this treatment was new and unexpected, and as they had been outsiders and often detested and snubbed by the rest of the Imperium, this was something quite special for them to see a being like this taking the knee in front of them instead of it being the other way around. So the Primarch himself had begun a quest of making his legion into noble warriors and not the monsters which they were becoming quite quickly and quite swiftly at that time. He had each of his companies fight alongside the Lunar Wolves for decades to learn the ways of nobility, and it eventually started to rub off on the 9th Legion, meaning that Sanguinius was able to instill a heavy sense of pride in his sons to take over and overshadow the lust for carnage and bloodshed which would always be there inside them. So I won't go too much into the Horus Heresy. I don't really want to give too many spoilers, and there's only one bit really that I need to mention, but the Horus Heresy then came about, and without going into too much spoilers, like I said, Sanguinius fought Horus nearing the end of the heresy. Obviously, there was a lot that happened before that, tons of books, as we all know. But yeah, Horus was heavily empowered by Chaos at this time, the Chaos Gods, and so he bested Sanguinius and killed him. Sanguinius's death put a strong psychic imprint into the DNA of his legionaries, and started off the Black Rage in doing so. So it was at that point when he was killed by his brother that massive psychic shockwaves went out, and every single one of the Blood Angels gene seeds, I believe it was, which is obviously where Sanguinius's DNA comes into them. Yeah, so Sanguinius's death put a strong psychic imprint into the DNA of his legion, and that's when the Black Rage started. Obviously, a warrior in the legion from now on, in the heat of battle, could start to actually believe himself to be Sanguinius in his final moments aboard the vengeful spirit fighting against Chaos and the heretic warmaster Horus. This would send them into a frenzied rage and essentially making them almost uncontrollable monsters of wrath. So it's then after these legionaries actually suffer with the Black Rage that they're inducted into a new company called the Death Company, which is for their final bloodthirsty battle so that they can pretty much regain their honor after falling. So yeah, that's pretty much the beginning of the Blood Angels up to the point where their two main flaws come about, obviously the Red Thirst and the Black Rage. And then going into the current day, there's a load of stuff I could mention on them, but I'll just name some of the main characters that are around now, as so to speak. So the current day chapter master is Lord Commander Dante, who I'm sure everyone's heard about. He's also the Lord Regent of the Imperium Nihilus, made so by the Primarch Guilliman after the devastation of Baal, where the Tyranid Hive Fleet, Leviathan, and a demon army headed by Sanguinius's old nemesis from the Horus Heresy days, Carbanda, tried to destroy Baal wholly. He's rumoured to be around about 1,500 years old as well, so I think he's the oldest living Space Marine, possibly, or chapter master at least. Glenn?
Yeah, he's the oldest living, like, Space Marine, because Bjorn's got the...
non-dreadnought Space Marine.
Non-dreadnought.
Yeah. Cool. So yeah, that's 1,500 years is a long time. He's very, very tired chapter master, but still radiant in his golden armor and still does an exceptional job. So next in the list, we've got Brother Corbilo, who is the sanguinary high priest, and he's the most that looks like Sanguinius, and he has got his personality as well, more than any other Blood Angel supposedly, and he's ever searching for a cure for the Black Rage. So far, none have actually come to pass. He did think with the Primaris Marines, when they first come about, that maybe they would be the cure to the Black Rage, but since then many Primaris Marines have fallen to the Death Company as well, so that didn't work, so he's still searching. Then we have Chief Librarian Mephiston, who is the only Blood Angel to wholly cast out the Black Rage, and possibly the second most powerful Imperial Psycho after the Emperor himself, so a very cool character there. I think we spoke about him before when I did my the coolest character that I liked in the Blood Angels, and Glenn, you were saying about that, wasn't it, that he wholly cast it out, the Black Rage?
Yeah,
but
I think
twice, wasn't it? I think it was twice.
I think in lore he's the only Blood Angel to have. Is he the only Blood Angel to have conquered it? There might be twice.
To have passed it out, yeah. Because then next on my list actually was Lamartes, who was the Guardian of the Lost, who leads the Death Company into battle, obviously. But he's actually succumbed to the Black Rage himself. But he's a chaplain, yeah. But he's never cast it out. He's always just learned to deal with it somehow. And I think that was actually the one Glenn was talking about, who he's actually kept in stasis between missions, because he is still so dangerous, and they never know when he's actually going to fully succumb to it. It's only by willpower, I think, that he holds himself in check.
I was going to say, Mephiston's the one that the mini, as it stands now, is very, very vampiric.
With the collar and the tape.
Yeah.
What, Mr. Smell My Finger?
Yeah. No, I didn't go with that one. I went with the plasma pistol.
Oh, come on, that. Yeah.
What is the big difference between the Red Thirst and the Black Rage?
So the Red Thirst is pretty much just, they've got something in them that makes them want to devour their enemies. Makes them almost want to go a little bit crazy if they lose it. But I think the Black Rage has got to be connected to the Red Thirst somewhere along the line. It's just almost like an extension of it, and a slightly different sort of play out of the way it goes. Red Thirst, they just lose their temper completely, go nuts, and then eat their victims pretty much. Always pushing forward, never taking a backward step.
Totally non-canon, this might be, but obviously all Space Marines have got the. There's one of the things they got, the augmentations, that if they eat something they've killed, like they can take on like information and memories. It might be that Red first started there, and it was like a development of, as you said, the waifs and strays being a bit feral and taking that on, and maybe getting addicted to that knowledge or understanding of their enemy, and that's driven them on. But that's just me spitballing.
Yeah,
what the Red
no, it
first
definitely
mean.
could have been. When I was doing the research I did, I was looking through that part about when they became known as the corpse eaters, or whatever it was I said.
It was corpse eaters.
The dead. So there wasn't really anything on Lexicanum or fandom that specifically said how that started. Well, there might have been, or maybe that I missed it, but in the bit that I was reading, it just said they just did it, and that was it. But yeah, if anyone else knows out there, definitely love to, if you could leave some comments after this show, just so we actually know how the Red Thirst started, what was the cause. Yeah, so then that was it. Lamartes was the next one, Guardian of the Lost, who leads his Death Company into battle. He's succumbed to the Black Rage, as I said, but he seems to be the only Blood Angel who can keep some sense of sanity through pretty much sheer willpower, whilst actually suffering the full force of the Black Rage on a constant level. The last one is obviously Astra the Grim, who's the Redeemer of the Lost, who must execute any surviving Death Company brothers after their final battle should they survive. He doesn't always do it. I think the only one who's not done it for is Lamartes, because Lamartes showed after months and months of testing by the Librarius and the Sanguinary Priesthood that actually he did have a bit of a handle on it. And he legitimately wouldn't just freak out and kill everyone if he was let out. But I think he's the only brother he hasn't actually just ended. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That's all I've got written down here anyway. Their war cry is for the Emperor and Sanguinius. And so that's pretty much that.
So, Death Company.
Yeah.
Every battle they go into, they don't come out of.
They're not supposed to.
They either die on the battlefield or they get killed by the chaplain.
Yeah, basically that's it. If they survive through their last final hurrah, they're too dangerous to keep around. And it often turns out that when Astaroth comes over to meet the ones who have survived, it's very rare that they survive, because they do go just straight into the battle. They don't even realize they're taking wounds, and they're pretty much fighting dead men anyway, right into the heart of the battle. But if they do survive, sometimes he will have to physically fight them 1-to-1. Luckily he's a bit of a G in that regard, so he just takes them out. But that apparently happens in every single battle.
Okay.
But Glenn, you know more about Lamartes than me, though, don't you?
Lamartes, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
so is he the only one that's actually been spared? That's what he looked like by doing the research from.
As far as I can remember, yes. Because obviously, like you say, Mephiston has conquered the Black Rage. So I don't know if it ever got to the point of them kind of going, oh, hang on a minute, you're actually okay. Or whether, he was just sort of like, oh yeah, I've got past it, don't worry about it, guys. And then they might have sort of checked him up. But yeah, Lamartes, is, as far as I'm aware, is the only one that sort of went, actually, I think you might be all right. You're a bit nuts, but we'll leave you.
Yeah, I mean, other than that, obviously the Blood Angels, one of their traits is they're very aesthetic. They love everything to look good, which is a bit strange, really, because as we said before, they come from a line of mutants and people with so-called faults running through their veins. But yeah, they love to look good. They love good art. Their armor's always perfect. But yeah, there's not a lot more to be said about the Blood Angels at the beginning on a basic level, other than that. So any questions? I'm sure that people are going to try and put me on the spot with a few things. I know Dave's been looking forward to this.
Why did the Death wear black? Death Company wear black? Because
I think that's just, the Black Rage. Black Rage. They're wearing black. It's sort of like in honor of Sanguinius, I think. That's why the Blood Angels have red armor mostly with black pauldrons, I think it is, or the black logo on their shoulder, and I think that's in dedication to Sanguinius and him dying, sort of like a mourning color, isn't it? Black.
Yeah.
I think that's why they wear the Death Company black.
was going to ask about. Well, I was going to because you play successor chapters, right? So you play the Sanguine Reapers, the successor chapter. I was going to ask about one particular success, which I think we probably covered before, but it was the Flesh Tearers. I don't know how much you know about those guys, and what. Do you remember the name of the chapter master? I'm trying to think of his name now, but I know he's. That's it. That was his name. But I was going to say, like, because the Blood Angels have got quite a lot of successor chapters, but am I right in thinking the Black Rage and the Red First transcends all of them?
All of them, every single one of them. Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty much across the board. And like with the Flesh Tearers, I did read. There was a novella I read called "The Flesh of Cretaceous," which is about the beginning of them finding a home world, and of course. Their first original chapter master was Nasir Amit, which was you read about in the Horus Heresy books as one of the. I think he was originally called the Flesh Tearer. That even when he was in the Blood Angels army, he was one of the captains, and pretty much they're a chapter that's all fallen or on teetering on the edge of falling. So yeah, very nuts chapter really. Especially if you read that book, they are crazy. They're all killing each other even. And even people that say, oh, yeah, we'll take your side on these planets. Like, yeah, just like help us out and we'll take your side. They're like, OK, no worries. They help them out and then they just kill them all. And you're like, well, how are they the good guys? It doesn't make any sense. But they've got a sort of twisted, I don't know, thing of honor in a way. But they're not normal, that's for sure. But yeah, to answer your question, it is pretty much across the board. Anyone who's got them gene seeds inside them, it's the same thing.
Because they all of the successor, was it all of the successor chapters? But a lot of them came back to help defend Bowl, didn't they? In the Tyrannid attack.
Every single one of them, except begins with an R. Not Redeemers, Relictors.
Is it Sanguine Reapers?
They sound like a bunch of cowards.
No, there was only one. I can't remember. It begins with an R, but there was one that didn't come back. Every single other one that's known of did actually return and help them, apart from the Sanguine Reapers as well. Obviously, don't cheers for that.
But didn't a lot of the because obviously they lost a lot with the devastation of Battle. Didn't they recruit a lot of? Didn't they take a lot of the success chapters Marines and sort of transfer them?
But I'm not too sure. They may have done. I know that Belisarius Cole come through with a lot of Primaris Marines for them straight after the devastation of Baal to inflate their numbers. And obviously, yeah, I mean, to be honest, I didn't research that part enough. But have you seen anything that says that?
Well, I was going to say after the devastation of Baal, I think that's when the Indominus Crusade reaches them, and that's when Gilliman gives him the
title
of looking after the Segmentum Nihilis, and kind of reinvigorates Don Taylor, because as you said, like, he's old and he's tired and he's almost like ready to die, and that kind of reinvigorates him a little bit.
And he is definitely ready for a new model as well, for certain.
There's a lot of the old Marines.
Maybe he'll be Primarisized across the Rubicon.
He has to be, doesn't he? Let's be honest, right? Out of all of the chapter masters and all of the models that could be made into a Primaris version, he would sell well. Like, yeah, I've seen it all over Instagram. He would sell really well. But yeah, that's probably something for another time.
Your favourite book that you've read with Blood Angels in, then? Because obviously you've got the biggest library out of all of us. I know we was talking earlier about ones that you're not too keen on.
It's not a great book, and it's by someone Glenn loves called James Swallow, but that was I think it was Fear to Tread, and it wasn't a terrific book, but it does give you a lot of Blood Angels lore and the heresy, and there's not too many books out there really that have the Blood Angels in completely, like in 30k at least. And obviously seeing Sanguinius fight Carbandar, the demon, was pretty cool. Or let's say reading about him fighting him was pretty awesome. And obviously the Red Thirst that they go through in that, when Sanguinius is put to the ground, he has his legs crushed by the great demon's whip, and they all charge into battle. It's pretty cool. It's not the best written book, like I say, but there's not too many out there. I don't think they're actually been done justice, Blood Angels wise.
Yeah, especially in the heresy, they're sort of hard to come by in the Heresy books, because like Sanguinius in he pops up in one of the earlier books, might even be the first one. He's sort of like mincing around, eating grapes on a chaise lounge.
Yeah, I remember.
It's kind of like, really? Come on.
Yeah, it's sort of like he just pops up now and again. There's quite a few books, like you say, when there's like the odd character mentioned or something like that, but it never ever really goes anywhere. So yeah, I'd definitely like to say, I know, say there are books out there. There's the Mephiston books as well, and there's the Dante book and things like that. But there doesn't seem to be anything that's of that much interest out there with the Blood Angels in.
So what was it that like attracted you to Blood Angels? Then I know we've covered it before.
I think it was when I first read about, because obviously it's not a spoiler at all. The thing with Horus and Sanguinius at the end of the Horus Heresy, that's in all of the codexes for Space Marines. It's everywhere. Everyone knows the final outcome, pretty much. And I think when I first read about that, the story of Horus, Sanguinius, the Emperor, and just obviously a guy in golden armor with these massive wings, like, and he knew he was going to lose against Horus, but he still went for it anyway. And I just thought, like, yeah, how heroic's that? And it was definitely Sanguinius that brought me into liking the Blood Angels. And then they turned out to be melee enthusiasts as well. And I think that's, if I ever wanted to play the game tabletop wise, that's what I would have wanted to do, have an army of melee specialists to go into battle with.
It's working out really well for you as well.
Oh yeah, it's working out really well, isn't it? Yeah, no, but when it does work out, I will enjoy it more than if I just, like, no offense to Glenn, obviously his army decimated everyone, but for me that wouldn't be fulfilling. I need my units to get in and amongst them and give them some bonks, as Dave calls them, on the head with their thunder.
So as well, go on.
Oh, I was just going to say, following on to that, like playing after this time, what are you finding you like and dislike playing Blood Angels? I know you mainly play like your sort of kit-bashed unit. So obviously, take the dice out of it because you've got terrible luck with dice. What do you enjoy? What do you dislike with the chapter you've picked?
There's not really much that I dislike other than the fact that I've just got decimated by you quite a lot.
Yeah.
Like with the games I've had against Dave, I only lost one really badly, and the others have all been very close. And I've obviously won a couple against Dave as well. So it hasn't been too far. I mean, with Shane, obviously it was quite close as well. I think there's nothing too bad about them really. There's a couple of really cool stratagems where you can use with the Death Company, where you can get them right up the table very quick if you've got a jump pack unit. Forlorn Fury, I think it's called. I used that against you, John. I know I lost the game really badly, but it worked at the beginning, didn't it? Getting them right up there and into the fray. And I suppose if that had come off, then it would have been pretty cool. But there's no specific strengths or weaknesses about them, to be honest, that I've seen other than melee. If you can get into melee and you can get your dice rolls off with them, they can be really devastating. And it's all about that. If you can't get into melee and you make a couple of wrong strategic moves, they haven't got a lot of firepower other than the generic sort of like a Redemptor Dreadnought or whatever you'd have for any other army. Like their specific tank that I've got, the Baal Predator, I've found almost to be useless, completely useless. It's got loads of flamers on it, but when you're ever going to get that many flamers up to a unit and kill it, because they're all like, I think maybe -1 AP, so it's not really anything. So their specific units aren't great, and their specific characters, actually, they're really cool in lore, but they don't give you a lot for the amount of points they cost. Like Mephiston, he's pretty cool, but he's only got a few wounds. You might as well take a Dreadnought, a Librarian Dreadnought, for the same points, have more wounds and have much better close combat. So yeah, there's nothing that stands out. Like with your guy, John, you've got the is it Typhus and Lord of Contagion, is it?
Yeah. I
know you whinge about him quite often, but they seem to have a lot more things going on for them than the characters do in the Blood Angel side of things.
I only whinge about Lord of Contagion because I just fail charges with him constantly. Otherwise, he's a beast. And Typhus, I just don't think I've played him properly yet. Like I've not used him the way he's supposed to. I'm still figuring out Typhus, but he's expensive. And other than playing him, I've played him in smaller games, like when we was at yours. I think playing him in anything less than 2,000 points is a bit difficult because he just needs like the poxwalkers and other buffs to go with. So yeah, I have got good characters. You're right.
Yeah, and I think that's probably just the main thing. My main gripe with them really is it's a lot of points and you don't really get a lot for it.
Yeah.
They have got really good chapter stats though. Obviously, if you get in there, you can add 1 to your advance and to your charge, which is really good if you can get in there. And I think it's +1 to hit or +1 to wound. I think it's +1 to hit as well if you made a charge or were charged. So you know, if you can get them in, they'll do a job. If you get the rolls, if not, you're fucked. Pretty much. As I have been repeatedly by a lot of you lot.
Sort of staying with the tabletop sort of theme. What the fuck is the Sanguinor?
The Sanguinor, there's a couple of different theories about what he actually is. So some people believe that he was Askelon, who was the captain of the Sanguinary Guard originally, back in the Horus Heresy days, who was blessed by the Emperor to become the Sanguinor and only turn up on the battlefield when the Blood Angels are in some form of desperate need. Others say that it's the good half of but half of Sanguinius's actual soul coming out of the warp to animate this set of armor. When all the Blood Angels combined psychic will is going out into the warp and pretty much saying we need help, you know, we're fighting a losing battle, and then this being comes out of nowhere, this Sanguinor, but no one really knows for sure. Only the people right at the top of the Blood Angels tree know really what he is, but I don't believe they've ever said you know, this is what he is. It's always been a little bit out there and no one's quite sure, like a lot of things we've already mentioned in Games Workshop and 40k or 30k.
What would satisfy you the most?
Got a bit of a knowing look there, Glenn. Have you got anything to say?
No, my knowing look is, and Games Workshop will never tell you because there's always the speculation is always better than a definitive answer. They will end up pissing off one or the other.
Yeah.
So yeah, just leave it open ended and let people make their own decision on it. Plus, then it sort of frees up the, you know, for running successor chapters and stuff like that as well. It's sort of like, oh, this is my interpretation of what this is. So you know, it's just nice to have the grey area to operate in.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's definitely a model that I'd like to see cross the Rubicon, so to speak. A Primaris Sanguinor.
Yeah,
I think it'd be really nice.
Yeah, a lot of people have actually done their own versions of that. Yeah, I would like to maybe have a go at doing that myself, but yeah, no, I think there's a lot of models, isn't there? I mean, because the Blood Angels have got a lot of characters. When you look into it, they've got a lot of known characters who have been around for a long time. So fingers crossed, one day they will get around to putting all of that. But having said that, they've already made my fist on Primaris, so I can't completely complain like they've done nothing. Nah, we'll see. We'll see what happens in the future.
And what's your favourite model Blood Angels that you've painted, or one that you're after that you haven't got yet?
I have to say Tycho, just because I know I always go on about him, but he came out really well, and it was nice. I like painting the vintage little minis like that. I really get a decent satisfaction out of completing them old models from the 90s and from the early 90s, the mid 90s. And yeah, definitely Captain Tycho. I also want to get him again, the identical model, and paint him in the Death Company armor as well, just so I can use him in both.
Yeah.
Just so you can get another mention on the Warhammer thing.
No, I don't think you'd get much.
So you keep bringing up that model.
Wouldn't you agree? He's probably the best one I painted, though, out of my character models.
No, he does look good. He does look good.
Because there's not really
a lot of your models look good. So.
But there are a lot of my characters I haven't really done, because obviously Dante, I haven't even got Dante at the moment. So I was kit bashing one, wasn't I? And I never got around to finishing that.
Yeah.
And who have I got? I've got Corbilo, who's another vintage mini, but he wasn't all that. The armor come out a bit streaky. So yeah, definitely Erasmus Tycho.
Cool.
Silence says it all. I think.
Has anyone got any more Blood Angels tidbits they want to throw in?
No.
I mean, there's so much out there for the Blood Angels. Like, but I just couldn't be bothered to put it in there.
Way to go with the lore video. Brilliant.
Well, it went on for quite a long time. I mean, we was only supposed to be doing basic lore videos on how they started and all that sort of thing anyway. And I think, you know, that is how they started.
Yeah, it's good, mate. I enjoyed it and learned a lot about Blood Angels that I didn't know because I didn't know anything. So thank you.
Name one thing that you learned from that video.
I learned that you like painting Tycho. Because I've forgotten. That's why I asked again. Like Black Rage and the Red First. I didn't know the difference between the two.
There's not a lot, is there?
No, but you hear it mentioned, and now the meme where the Blood Angels see Horus makes sense to me now. When a drop pod lands and you're relieved, they call you Horus. Those memes, it makes sense to me now. Thank you. So we've all benefited.
So for the next episode, it's you, isn't it, John? And your Death Guard.
It is me. I put it off for about 3 months, but it will be me next year. So I'll do some research and I'll do what
Read
you
the
do.
codex.
Give up half. Give up. Yeah. So we'll look forward to that.
And as always, thank you very much for watching. Please feel free to subscribe to us on Instagram, and that's Iron and Ceramite. Use the hashtag Iron and Ceramite for the chance to we'll put you on our Instagram stories, follow you and sort of promote your page as well. Facebook, we do have a small page on there, small community where we sort of discuss all things hobby. Again, Iron and Ceramite. Same with Twitter, same with YouTube. We are on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and all good podcast services. Follow us on Twitch. You might occasionally get to see John play Space Marines very badly. And we'd like to put some more stuff out on there as well. So please do follow us on Iron and Ceramite. We do have a Patreon page. If you can donate to that, all proceeds of that will go onto the podcast, buy us a bit better equipment, and it will just go straight into the page. We do have a Element Games link. If you could use that, gives us a bit of a kickback, helps us promote the page, and again, lets us fund the page a little bit better. And if you're into combat cards, which I'm not because I'm absolutely all for it, please join that as well and play against Glenn and Shane.
Cool. Thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed the Blood Angels episode as much as we did. Look forward to the disaster that will be the Death Guard episode. And that's goodbye from us and Exterminatus.
As always, we would like to thank you for listening to our Iron and Ceramite podcast. If you liked us, then you can also find us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and any other good podcast services. Just remember, in the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war.
I'm fairly confident we haven't spoken about those games already.
I think it's because it's like 2 weeks ago, and
Yeah.
where we were all talking about it together on the day,
Yeah.
on Insta, like, and then in various chats afterwards. I think it
Yeah.
feels like we've talked about it.
Yeah. We've got a guest.
An interloper.
I just wanted to say hello.
Hello.
How come
Hello.
everyone's background on except you and John?
And
Oh, and Tom. Come on, everyone. Put a nice background on.
I've got a very themed background. All my Warhammer shit's in the back.
Yeah, I've only got background to stop people seeing all the kids and stuff running behind me because I'm not hidden in a room.
They're bound and gagged to the stairs.
That's it. Yeah.
I like having my ears as well.
Oh,
If
God.
anything backgrounds, it cuts off your ears. Well, it looks like it with Dave.
Games like that anyway. Are you changing your background?
I am. Bear with. There he is.
So you can see everyone, but sanguineous.
Yeah. I'm just going to go over here.
Or what's left of him?
Yeah.
If you take the pose of the Emperor,
You might not like this, Dave, but I'm not actually going too deep into that part of the story, or any part of the Blood Angel story. Basically, they're red. That's it.
cool. Right. Are you ready, Tom?
Yeah.
Cool.
I'm gonna have to do a lot of reading from the iPad, though, to be honest, because I'm not going to remember all this.
That's all right. Just half a pint.
Yeah, sugar. I put like that much lemonade in it, so it's a shandy now. That's all right.
I can drive. I just had some shandy.
Has everyone got their Imperial mugs out?
Yeah. Well, two of us have.
Should have
That's
known.
a nasty thing. So, originally the 9th Legion. Sorry. Oh, I thought I heard someone say something. Sorry, I haven't got my earphones in now, so I'm hearing things from outside and everything.
Someone else outside's heckling you.
Yeah, probably.
No.
You can cut that bit out anyway. Comes into them, lovely. I've made myself fucking laugh. Brilliant. Oh, where were we?
Go with massive psychic energy.
Something about a massive erection you've got. So let's quickly just get this up. Cool. Okay, so who wants to just wrap us
Dave.
up and read this?
Dave. It's Dave's turn.
Okay.
Definitely Dave's turn.
Well done, Dave.
No. Right. Fuck you, Tom. Always put me on the fucking spot.
What's that?
It's
Just
there.
'cause I asked,
Yeah, you
I
literally
asked a
have
few
to read it off the
questions.
screen.
You go, oh, it's definitely Dave. Fucking prick.
All you kept saying earlier was, I can't wait to ask you questions that you don't know the answer to,
I've asked
So,
you a couple of
fuck it.
very easy questions. You
that
snap.
you thought I'd get wrong. And I probably did. I don't even remember what I said. Just blurted everything out.
I don't think mine's going to be sorted out by then.
Yeah.
And then I'll
Whatever
watch
you
it.
do, don't watch Old Ball Eye.
I'll send you a link as a homemade video.
Yeah, fucking hell, yeah. That'd be a completely different fucking video, that one. John's ball guy.